generation.
Dates in the Bible don't quite match the marriage certificate. Uh-oh.
And welcome, America, to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. Hey, great to have you aboard today. Diahan Southard is on the show today. Of course, we all know her as Your DNA Guide, but we can also add to her credits Your DNA Surprises Revealed on PBS. Yeah, it's a great new special, and she got to be the host. How did that all happen? What is the show about? How can you see it? Diahan's got all the answers coming up for you in about 10 minutes or so. And then later in the show, from our sponsors at Legacy Tree Genealogists, learn about doing your research on your ancestors from Poland with Trina Galaner. She's got some great websites for you to check out and some ways for you to better understand the history of Poland and why it's such a difficult place to research. Right now, it's time to head out to Boston, Massachusetts. David Allen Lambert is standing by, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. David, welcome back. Great to have you.
Hey, well, it's nice to talk to you instead of staring at the computer screen where I've been offloading from Google Images all the photos from the past 10 years.
Very nice thing to do.
Those recent photos are great. I wish I had some of the older ones.
Funny you mentioned that, because this past week I just created a book out of the 19th century photos I have on both my side and my wife's side of the family to put them all in one place. So we're going to make a nice soft cover for it and distribute it to all the kids. So the images will at least survive no matter what happens to the originals ultimately. There's 176 pictures in there. I couldn't believe it when we totaled them all up.
I could count all of the 19th century photographs that survived from my family on both my mother and father's side on one hand. Now, luckily for my kids, my wife's family has far more from the 19th century, but probably 20. If that.
That's good.
Congratulations.
Well, they were gathered over 40 years, and I got some from first cousins, and I got some from third cousins, and I got some from complete strangers on both sides of the family. And so it's funny when you realize, wow, if you ask enough people, it really starts to total up. And then, of course, you share them online, and it's a boon for everybody.
You know, I walked into somebody's house once and they had all these old photos on the wall. I said, wow, you're so lucky to have all those ancestors. Oh, no, those aren't ancestors. I bought them at a flea market. I just like them. Well, you know, I think that everybody is a big fan of Dr. Henry Louis Gates' show, Finding Your Roots. And one of the things about it is it's always about celebrities. Well, until now, he has changed the focus. In fact, you can go on to findingyourrootscasting.com and fill out an application and potentially be on the show with your brick wall.
How about that? Wouldn't that be something to have his team of experts go to work on your behalf and reveal to you on national television the secrets you've desired?
Well, you know, a lot of genealogists are getting excited, especially if you have ancestors in Scotland this past month, because Scotland's People, which is a pay-per-view site brought to you by the government in Scotland, they have released the 1921 census. It's 9,000 volumes. They have over 200,000 images, which kind of rolls up to about 4.8 million people you can find. Their quote is, who will you find? ?
Yeah.
So for me, I can find my wife's maternal grandfather. He would have been a year old. So I'm going to look for him this week.
Absolutely. That's a good one. Congratulations to Scotland.
Well, congratulations to Intermountain Forensics in Salt Lake City. They are working right now to help identify the victims of the Tulsa Race Massacre, which happened back in 1921. There may be as many as 300 victims buried there, and they're going to use DNA and genealogy to help identify these previously unknown victims of a horrible hate crime from over a century ago.
Yeah, well, they're a top shelf organization, so I have no doubt they'll be successful.
Well, you know, I always loved hearing stories about our World War II veterans. And of course, you know, we are losing them every day. But Pearl Harbor just celebrated the remembrance of 81 years after the brutal attack, December 7th. And George Coburn, who was on the USS Oklahoma, is 102 years young. And do you know what he did on December 7th this year?
Fill me in.
He got to fly in a 1944 Stearman biplane.
Oh, wow.
It's a company called Dream Flights. And I don't know about you, but if I was the pilot and got to fly with a 102-year-old Pearl Harbor survivor, I think the Dream Flight goes both ways.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. That's fun.
Another great World War II story I came across is out in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the Center for Southwest Research and Special Collections. A couple of people were very interested in capturing the story of the first 29 Navajo code talkers. And within this collection, they've gathered their actual physical military documents, photos of their lives, including their time in the military. And when it's done, Fish, it will have 52 boxes of material. What an amazing way of capturing such an important part of World War II history.
Well, they were real heroes, and this is the treatment they should get for it, and that is to be remembered and studied, and good people.
You know, I love when people are echoing the same thing that you and I talk about all the time. It's always great to remember the family stories, but how about the family quotes? And in the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, the editor of this article, Kenneth H. Thomas, he speaks about remembering the quotes your family says. I can always remember little things that my mother used to say, like, well, if their face was their fortune, they'd die in the poorhouse. Right? My mother always said nice things, so she really had to be kind of riled up to say that about a person.
My grandfather, he said something about it was slicker than jelly on a doorknob. It's like, what? That's kind of bizarre. And then my great-grandfather is quoted in the newspaper after being involved in a brawl with his organization. He said, the less said, the sooner mended. I thought, oh, that's very profound. So great stuff. Good stories, Dave.
Well, start your year off right. You can join American Ancestors and save $20 by using the coupon code EXTREME on AmericanAncestors.org.
All right, David, thank you so much. And we will talk to you at the back end of the show for Ask Us Anything. And don't forget also to sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter. Get a blog from me each week, links to past and present shows, and links to stories you'll appreciate as a family historian. And get this, it costs you nothing. So you can sign up on our Facebook page or at extremegenes.com. Coming up next, Diahan Southard talking about her new PBS special on Your DNA Secrets Revealed when we return in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes.
It's the time of year that we gather family close, and our friends at Legacy Tree Genealogists are celebrating this together time by offering, for a very limited time, $200 off the price of any genealogy research project for new clients. That's research by some of the field's top experts. It's the perfect time to order that unique and personalized family history gift at a great price, but you must hurry. This offer ends on Friday, December 23rd. Just go to legacytree.com and use the promo code GIFT200. That's one word, GIFT200. Legacy Tree Genealogist has been around for over 18 years and has experts covering every state and virtually every country in the world. If you've been wanting to discover your family story, take advantage of this remarkable holiday discount, $200 off the price of any genealogy research project for new clients. Once again, use the promo code GIFT200 at legacytree.com. Offer ends December 23rd.
Legacy Tree Genealogist, helping you discover your past, one ancestral story after another. Genies, our friends at BYU TV have a new series out created just for us, family historians. It's called How I Got Here. It's a fast-paced travel show where young adults accompany their immigrant parents back to where they came from, their countries of origin. These are 10-day trips of a lifetime where these parent-child duos relive the sacrifice, struggle, and circumstances that led their families to leave to where they are now. There's a new episode every week with visited countries including Italy, Serbia, Mexico, Chile, Israel, Slovakia, and Ghana. BYU TV is on Roku and Fire Stick, online at byutv.org, or through the BYU TV app. How I Got Here is available now with a new episode every week. Feel the impact this journey has on those who grew up not knowing. And just a warning, keep a box of Kleenex nearby. You're going to need it. Hey Genies, as we've dug into our family history explorations over the past year, our community at Genealogy and Family History Breakthrough Strategies has taken off. This is where you can meet like-minded genealogists who can help you break through those brick walls and find a whole city behind it, occupied by ancestors whose names you don't even know yet. This is where you can learn from your fellow Genies and ask questions, because many in our community have already been into some of the records you're looking for. Genealogy and Breakthrough Strategies is free. What a great place for brainstorming and getting to know other people who totally get your passion for family history research. If you're looking to take the next step in sharpening your skills, here's a great chance to learn from others and give back in areas you've already become expert in. So join us. That page again is Genealogy and Family History Breakthrough Strategies. It's a long name, but we cover a lot of territory. Genealogy and Family History Breakthrough Strategies. Well, you never know what's going to happen in the family history world, and here comes PBS a-calling for one of our stars, and that would be Diahan Southard, your DNA guide. And Diahan's on the line with me right now. And Diahan, your show has debuted, the special, Your DNA Secrets Revealed on PBS. Congratulations. What a cool coup that was for you.
Thank you, Scott. It is very exciting.
How did this come about?
Well, it's interesting. I get periodically through my website contact form different producers or authors who are looking for advice or an expert or something to add to their show. And a lot of them, I just say no, because they want to do something really sensational. You know, they want to knock on the door of the birth dad and surprise him. And, I'm just not, that's just not my thing, not my cup of tea. So a lot of them, I'll just say no. This one sounded interesting. I mean, they said they were going to tell various stories about how DNA has impacted people's lives, either through family history or through health. And they were just looking to just chat with me more about their show. And I was like, okay. So we scheduled this Zoom call and I get online with the producers and we chat and they tell me more about the show. And I think even on that call with them, I said, man, this sounds like the show I would make if I was going to make a show. Because it really is just about regular people who find out something using DNA, whether it's a connection to a family member or something about their health, and it follows their journey. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'd love to help. And so they were going to interview me as like just an expert. Nika,
yes,
she was interviewed as well, right, for this show. And so they came to my house and they interviewed me, and it was really fun and it was a fun experience. And then like 2 months later, I was actually in Moab, Utah, just gotten off a river rafting ride with my family, and we were all like hot and starving. And we're sitting outside this little like drive-in burger place waiting for our food. And of course, I'm with my teenagers, so they pull out their phones, because it's been like 4 hours.
Because that's what you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, all right, I'm going to get on my phone. So I pull out my phone and I check my email, and there was an email from the producer. They're a contract company for PBS.
Sure.
So they have to like show everything that they're doing to PBS so they can get approval. And so they show my interview to PBS, and everybody agreed that I should be the host of the show.
Absolutely.
And so
yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys. I'm sitting there with my family. I was like, you will never believe this. And I told them all, and they're like, wow, Mom, that's amazing. So yeah, it was really, really, really exciting and a real privilege.
So obviously you had to go somewhere to film this and to shoot this and to meet the people. And how did the show come together where you found out about the various secrets that they wanted to include, or did you have to find those people?
So I did give them some recommendations of some of my clients, my Your DNA Skills Academy graduates. And so one of my graduates is in the show. Pam Cromwell is in the show. And so that's really fun to see her and have her tell her story of an ancestor that she found. It was beautiful. So I was really excited that she got to be included. I don't know how they found all the people that they found. So by the time they got to me, they kind of had the playlist already.
Right.
And so I just was able to review my script, my part. So they had written it, but then I got to go back through it and kind of change things and add things. And so I felt like it was, what I would say.
Yeah.
And then I went to a studio in downtown Salt Lake and we recorded it with a real teleprompter and everything, which was super fancy. And then I flew to New York to record the pledge drive part. So this is part of their pledge drive, of PBS pledge drive.
Sure.
So that's the really big win, I guess. I mean, other than just being the host, is that in these pledge drive moments, I'm talking with a non-genealogist, somebody who's never really done family history. And I was able to deliver to them something really fun and amazing about their own family and to encourage them in their family history journey. And so as part of the pledge drive, then I'm able to share with the audience some of the great stuff that I'm involved in. So the courses that we have at Your DNA Guide, my book, so that's all part of the package that they get if they donate at a certain level to their PBS station. So they get a My Heritage DNA kit, they get My Heritage DNA tour from Your DNA Guide, you get Your DNA Guide, the book, and you get access to the Search Party course, which is this other endeavor I'm doing with Janet Havorka and Krista Cowan. So it's a genealogy course. So they get that. They get this health report from a company called Family Forward. So in my mind, that's the purpose of this show, is to show people that family history matters, right?
Well, and it's fun. I mean, I think there's a sense for an awful lot of people, oh, it's boring. I have to sit and do this. No. You don't understand. Once you start finding stuff, it's just in your veins. You can never stop.
Absolutely. I feel like if that's like one message that comes from this show, like that's what I want people to feel. I want them to feel, as they're sitting there watching, I want them to feel, I can do this.
Yep.
Like,
and they can.
I can do, and they can, right? And there's so many resources available to get started. And it's addicting, of course. We all know that once we start.
Indeed. Oh, I can't sit down for 5 minutes without doing something with a photograph or looking something up. If I just have a few minutes of time, I do that. So tell me some of the stories that came out of the show.
So there's so many good stories. I love the breadth of the stories. So it's everything from this beautiful story of a woman finding her birth mother, and you get to see their connection. You get to see how it impacted their lives to make these connections. So there's everything from that to another set of gentlemen who connected over, I think it's their 2 times great-grandfather, who was a slaveholder. And it shows beautiful footage of them visiting places that their ancestors lived and their connection with each other, which was really amazing, to people who have found out information about their health that has impacted their lifestyle and the choices that they're making. And so it kind of covers the whole gamut. Yeah,
it is amazing to me because I've had many of these experiences as you have, and you think about it. Somebody spits in a tube in Australia, for instance, and you have a DNA match that comes from that reveals something that happened 200 years ago in England. You know?
Right?
I mean, just think of how incredible that is.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, now maybe it seems kind of commonplace. Like, years ago, I was trying to convince people that DNA could help them in their family history. And now, like, I don't really need to convince most people of that. Most people at least have some sort of feeling that, oh, yeah, DNA can help. But I feel like it's become too commonplace almost now, where we lose that magic. Like, do you really understand that you just gave some spit in a tube to a company and they told you that this person was your aunt? Yeah. Like, there's nothing else that's telling them that this person is your aunt but your DNA. And I just think that's still so fascinating.
Absolutely, it is. And the magic, I don't think, should ever end. I mean, when you consider that at the beginning of this century, which just wasn't that long ago, none of this stuff was commonly available. Just last week, I spoke to a woman who I connected with a few years ago because she had a bunch of Fisher matches that she shared with me. And I asked her if she would share her DNA results with me so I could see if I could do some things with that to extend it. And she wasn't sure about her father's side of the family, who he was. And so as we put her tree together to go with the DNA, we figured out who the dad was. It wasn't hard because when we got the 2 genetic networks together, there was only one son. So there was only one possibility. Well, she is meeting that father this week. And I had just checked on her DNA results, and there was the father's test up there. And I gave her a call. I said, did you know your dad? Oh, yeah. We're meeting next week, and we couldn't have done it otherwise. It just is such a good feeling when you can help somebody have life-changing experiences like that. And
definitely
shows like this are going to just do more and more and more to help people understand all the possibilities from DNA.
I think so too. And I think one of the things I like best about the show is it's catching up with people months or years after they've made their discovery. And it helps us to see that this isn't a curiosity that's just satisfied and then you put it on the shelf.
Right.
Like, these revelations are changing people's lives. Even now, years later, it's still affecting who they are, the choices they're making. And I love that part of it, that so many times we focus on that moment of discovery or whatever, but it's so much bigger than that. It does last. These discoveries last throughout your life.
I've seen it straighten out people with major mental health problems because of questions about family and how it all comes together. And DNA resolved that. And suddenly they're able to sleep at night, in the middle of their lives. It's an amazing thing. And it just goes on and on and on. Now, the show is Your DNA Secrets Revealed. It's on PBS. It's a one-time special, right, Diane?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so how can people see it?
So go to your local PBS station listings and you can search for it. It's showing in most markets. This is something I learned, fascinating, that PBS has a library essentially of shows, and the local stations get to choose what they show to their local audience. And so if you don't see it on the list, you can contact your PBS station and say, hey, I want to see this show. And they have the power to put it into their programming. But most markets are showing it. It started kind of this week, last week, and it'll keep on showing throughout the next several weeks and months. But also, if you're a PBS passport holder, so if you're already a subscriber to PBS, you can get access to the show through their app, so you can watch it on demand.
This is awesome. Now, is there any possibility, have you heard yet, that they might want to do another one?
Everybody asks me that, and I sure hope so. Wouldn't that be great? I think we should do lots and lots of shows like this.
Did you like hosting? I mean, you've always been great on stage and in person and in teaching. There's just always a warmth and connection that you naturally have. How did it feel for you?
It felt so good. It did feel like I was born for this,
Yeah.
You look at your life and all the things that have shaped you. And, I took acting classes, I did all the things, and it really felt like a beautiful kind of culmination of all the things I've learned and make an impact like this.
Absolutely. She's Diahan Southard. She's Your DNA Guide. You can go see her at yourdnaguide.com. And Diahan, congratulations on this. I'm really looking forward to finally seeing it. It's been a busy time of year here, but we have to make sure we carve out some time and watch this show, Your DNA Secrets Revealed, on PBS. Thanks for coming on, Di.
Thanks so much for having me, Scott.
And coming up next, Trina Galauner from our sponsors over at Legacy Tree Genealogist, talking about how you can find your Polish ancestors when we return in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Hey, welcome back to Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. And roll out the barrel, especially if you've got Polish ancestry, because we have Polish specialist Trina Galauner on the line right now from Cleveland, Ohio, with our good friends over at our sponsors, Legacy Tree Genealogists. We talk about how they got experts all over the world, but they also have experts right here who know about what's going on all over the world. And Trina, Eastern Europe has traditionally been a very difficult place to research because of all the changing borders over time and the wars and the burning and loss of records. How do you do this?
Well, we have to remember from 1772 to 1918, there was no Poland. There were a lot of people who were Polish, but Poland was divided between the Austrian Empire, the German Empire, and the Russian Empire.
So you've got all kinds of complicated things there, especially for Americans who get their ancestral records back and they go, wait a minute, I know they were German, I know they were Russian, I knew they were, wait a minute, they were Polish, weren't they? That's got to be really complicated.
Yes, it is complicated. And in the German Empire, it gets even more complicated because the town names many times were changed to be German names. So what your ancestor might remember as the Polish name of the town, there was a German name of the town. So you have to be able to decipher where we're looking for these towns.
Right, that makes perfect sense. And do you find that there are certain people who emigrate more from one section of Poland, or are they from all throughout what is now Poland?
Well, there's been emigration throughout Poland, but the earliest emigration actually came from Prussia, which in 1871 became part of the German Empire. And in particular, I find a lot of people in America and Canada with immigrant ancestors. A lot of them came from the province of Poznan. In German, it was called Posen.
Okay. And so this area, you got a name change you got to deal with if you're researching your Polish ancestors.
Right. And there are a lot of sources out there that can kind of help you decipher that. But really knowing the history of what was going on there really, really helps. Like, for example, in Poznan, it was divided into two districts. So it was a province of Poznan and divided into two districts. And one of the districts was called Poznan and the other was called Bydgoszcz. In German, Bromberg. Most of the people that were Polish in the province of Poznan were Catholics. Now, from the province of Poznan, there were three basic timeframes of emigration. 1872 was a huge year for emigration. 1881 was the highest amount of people that left Poznan. And 1891 then was another large amount of people. Now, my own ancestry, my earliest ancestors came during that 1881 time frame, and a few of my other ancestors also from Poznan came in 1891. So I can say for a fact from my experience that is true.
So what was going on in those three times?
Well, when the German Empire in 1871 took control of the Kingdom of Prussia, they instituted Germanization. It was called Kulturkampf.
Okay.
And they wanted all the Polish people to speak German. They wanted them to learn German. They wanted German to be spoken in the churches. The Catholic churches were oppressed if they were Polish churches. They actually arrested some Polish priests. They would bring in some German priests into the parishes. And then even the people who were Polish, they would actually go and worship at a different parish because they didn't want to worship with a German-speaking priest.
So did the Polish people naturally speak German as a second language, or was this a completely new thing for many of them?
Actually, there had been Germans in the area even previous to Poland becoming part of Prussia. These people, they lived together and got along, and businesses flourished. Everything was fine until the German Empire really took over in 1871 and said, everybody needs to speak German. Schools need to teach German. Forget the Polish here.
Okay.
So the people wanted to emigrate out. And many times they were Polish priests who emigrated. They were like, hey, they're not letting me worship in my native language. And they would emigrate to the United States. And some of those people would follow the priests.
So what happened then in 1881?
In 1881, and I can tell you this from my experience, and I know being that I'm from Cleveland, and I believe this was also happening for other Midwest towns, there were recruiters, American recruiters, business recruiters that were coming over to Poland, and they were recruiting people out of Poland to come and work in the industry for lesser pay, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons in 1881, besides just being oppressed in their towns where they lived.
And then what happened in 1891?
It was a similar thing. There were still people coming out of Poznan, and they were coming to the United States really for jobs, for work, and just to get away from the situation that was happening in Poznan.
Be with other Polish people in the United States.
Mm-hmm. The Polish people were also forced into a military conscription with the Prussian army. So that was another thing that people wanted to get away from. They really didn't want to fight for the Prussian army. There was actually an uprising in Poznan in 1848. It was unsuccessful.
So this was a long-running occupation.
Yes, it was kind of slow growing from before 1772 until people just got really fed up and wanted to leave the country.
So if you've got Polish ancestry, what are the sources that people would want to go to start researching their ancestors?
Well, for Poznan in particular, there's a man called Łukasz Bilecki. He put together the Poznan Marriage Project, and with a lot of support from others, he put together an index of marriages, specifically in the Poznan area, which is a large area of immigration to America and to Canada. and it covers from 1800 up until, I think, 1899. And while it's not totally complete,
sure,
it's very complete. Chances are, if an ancestor married within that time frame, chances are you could find the ancestor in the index, and it'll point you to where the marriage record was. And sometimes that can really help you narrow down the exact location in Poznan, the exact village where they came from.
Wow.
This website also, they not only have like Roman Catholic and Protestant records, they also have some civil registration records indexed in there. Now, you can't click on it and go right to the record you would have to find. And many of those records can be found on microfilm at the Family History Library.
Are they not online yet?
I guess some of them may be available at the Family Search website, but some may not. It depends.
Sure.
You know, some are locked and you have to access them at the library. There's another area where you can access a lot of these records, and it's at the Polish State Archives. Right now it's down. They had some issues with security, and it's been down for about probably a month now, and hopefully it gets up by the end of the year. All of the data is saved. But the problem with going to the Polish State Archives website is you do kind of have to be familiar with Polish. So you have to know the exact spelling of the town name to be able to search for the town and see what records are available online. And you have to use the diacritical marks usually when you search. So it's a little more difficult to access from there. But there's another great website called Geneteka, Geneteka.
Okay.
And they have indexed birth, marriage, and death records for a lot of Poland, like not just Poznan. And you can search for last name, first name, date, and you could search birth, marriage, and death records and possibly find them in the index. And they sometimes provide a link to the scan so you can see it directly.
She's Trina Galauner. She's from Cleveland, Ohio, a Polish specialist with our friends over at Legacy Tree Genealogists. And you know your stuff, Trina. Thank you for coming on and sharing those tips for people looking for their ancestors from Poland. And we'll talk to you again down the line.
Okay. Thank you.
And coming up next, David Allen Lambert rejoins me as we go through your questions with Ask Us Anything on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Genies, our friends at BYU TV have a new series out created just for us, family historians. It's called How I Got Here. It's a fast-paced travel show where young adults accompany their immigrant parents back to where they came from, their countries of origin. These are 10-day trips of a lifetime where these parent-child duos relive the sacrifice, struggle, and circumstances that led their families to leave to where they are now. There's a new episode every week with visited countries including Italy, Serbia, Mexico, Chile, Israel, Slovakia, and Ghana. BYU TV is on Roku and Fire Stick, online at byutv.org, or through the BYU TV app. How I Got Here is available now with a new episode every week. Feel the impact this journey has on those who grew up not knowing. And just a warning, keep a box of Kleenex nearby. You're going to need it.
It's the time of year that we gather family close, and our friends at Legacy Tree Genealogists are celebrating this together time by offering, for a very limited time, $200 off the price of any genealogy research project for new clients. That's a research by some of the field's top experts. It's the perfect time to order that unique and personalized family history gift at a great price, but you must hurry. This offer ends on Friday, December 23rd. Just go to legacytree.com and use the promo code GIFT200. That's one word, GIFT 200. Legacy Tree Genealogist has been around for over 18 years and has experts covering every state and virtually every country in the world. If you've been wanting to discover your family story, take advantage of this remarkable holiday discount, $200 off the price of any genealogy research project for new clients. Once again, use the promo code GIFT200 at legacytree.com. Offer ends December 23rd.
Legacy Tree Genealogist, helping you discover your past, one ancestral story after another. Hey Genies, Ancestry now has an exclusive partnership with PhotoMine, the leader in photo scanning and archiving. What does this mean to you? Well, imagine inheriting an old photo album and you want to digitize all the images. Up until now, you'd have to remove the pictures, place them in a scanner, crop them, and perhaps use Photoshop to improve them. Now, by using these amazing PhotoMine tools from Ancestry, you can use your phone to take a picture of an entire page from your album. The tools will automatically separate and crop each picture, improve focus, and restore color or colorize your images. Then you can assign which picture goes to which person on your tree. If you've been waiting years to get around to the tedious project of scanning your old albums, it's been worth the wait. No more pulling your photo albums apart and trying to reinsert the pictures back in proper order. No more tearing of your old photos while removing them from those so-called magnetic albums of the 1970s. Sign in to Ancestry through their mobile app to try it out. All right, back on the job. It's Fisher here along with David Allen Lambert on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. It's time once again for Ask Us Anything, where we kind of help you out with some tips and ideas on how to do some of your research. And David, this question comes from Lanny in Beaufort, South Carolina. And it says, Dave and Fish, how do you research a farmer? I know there are various methods for less common occupations, but my folks pretty much work the land. Help me. Okay, Dave, I'll turn this over to you because I don't have any farmers.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. Really?
No.
Well, I'll lend you some of mine because I've got bushels of them. And then next to the term laborer, as far as the occupation of Americans, I would say that farmer is probably running a close second.
I think so.
Well, and again, it depends where your ancestors lived. I mean, if you get New York City people, you'd have to go back to the Dutch era to probably find farmers. And of course, is where your ancestors live. But there are plenty of records, and some of them might be very obvious. They probably own their land that they're farming, not always.
Okay.
So you want to look at deeds.
Okay.
You find the acreage. You may even find that they inherited their farm as part of their dad's farm, or maybe their father-in-law. They got it as part of a wedding gift. So that's a possibility.
Yeah, you're looking for stories, basically, because we know what a farmer does. The other thing would be, I guess, does he have animals? How many animals? And what does he grow on his farm? And so, this would be a great thing to develop a story around.
In both of those you can trace to find out what animals he had. Well, he may have taken out ads in the newspaper, but more importantly, his probate.
Sure.
How many times do you look at colonial probates right down the 21st century? They had 10 cows, 4 pigs, 13 chickens, and a mule. I always say it's like peeling back the window covering of your ancestors' life and seeing what they had. It's like peering into the past. In the newspaper, how about if they had a prize bull at the county fair? Or he was known to sell really good ducks. I mean, that's an ad that's going to be in the paper. You're going to find things you may have never known. So use newspapers.com and search out those type of records. The other thing is in the federal records, there were agricultural schedules between 1850 and 1900 for most of the United States. And you can find out more about that on census.gov, but search a lot of them on Ancestry or Family Search. These are places that you can find that. And if you have Canadian roots like I do, the 1861 census for like Nova Scotia has somewhere on the lines of over 100 questions about what your ancestor produced as a farmer. So you're getting all of that detail. Mind you, it's only 1 year, but it's almost like a diary of the ancestor's life.
Boy. And also think about what you might find in newspapers relating to farming in general in a certain area. And this is what we talked about previously with Gina Philibert Ortega about searching for your ancestors in newspapers without using their names, right? Research the farming in that area. And when people had a good year or when farms were destroyed by bad weather, you can match up a lot of things, too, that you might find in somebody's journal.
And that's true. In fact, using the old seed catalogs, you can kind of trace where the growing patterns were and maybe make sense why your ancestors moved further west. But if you want to honor these ancestors, research them, tell their stories, go visit the farms that they had, and hopefully it's not in the middle of a Walmart parking lot. But you can join an organization for those that are descendants of farmers, and it's called the National Society of Descendants of American Farmers. From 1776 to 1914. So essentially from the Declaration of Independence right down to the start of World War I. And you can find out more at nsdoaf.com.
Yeah, that organization, as soon as they started, membership in that absolutely exploded, caught them completely off guard. Thanks so much for the question, Lanny. We got another one coming up as we continue with Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and Ask Us Anything in 3 minutes. All right, back for our final segment of our final new show for 2022, because we're going to take a couple of weeks off here, David, and enjoy the holidays with everybody else. And then we'll be back in 2023 with whole new episodes. Looking forward to that. We're doing Ask Us Anything, and our final question comes from Kaz in Montville, Michigan. And Kaz says, "Hi, guys. Our family is looking forward to the first big Christmas gathering since COVID. Any tips on gathering stories and interviewing relatives?" That is a great question. I think that applies to a lot of people, and hopefully we can help you plan that a little bit.
Well, I mean, I always say just press play and record and capture everything.
Yep.
And then, of course, it's a matter of having good editing software like you use for Extreme Genes, so everybody is very detail-oriented and there's no background noise. So you might get a lot of extra work out of that one. As far as questions go, I would say the first one is, what's the earliest Christmas you remember? What was Christmas like when you went to grandma's house?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yes. And who was the most annoying person you remember among your relatives from back in those days?
And they may not be able to answer it because old Uncle Charlie's in the next room. But
Exactly.
There's so many different things. Pull out the old family photographs because they may be able to identify somebody who was over at a Christmas celebration that may have been the minister in their church. It may have been a neighbor that lived across the street. But you're scratching your head saying, I don't think that's great, Aunt Molly. Turns out it isn't. It's the minister's 90-year-old widowed wife who actually was there when your great-great-grandparents were married.
It's interesting you say that, too, because there are so many people who have so many pictures that are not marked on the back, including myself. I have far too many that are not marked, and I need to get them done. Yep. But nonetheless, that leaves everybody with a little bit of a mystery. So there is the benefit that you just described, but there's also the benefit that when people look at photographs, they remember stories about those particular moments or that particular year or that particular place or those particular people.
That's very true. The metadata that we can't type fast enough to capture. And that's really it. I mean, think of all the digital pictures that people have. I have thousands of them, thousands upon thousands. I know who they are. Your immediate family will know who they are. But if I'm standing with my arm around somebody at a genealogy conference, they won't know who it is.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. The other thing about questions is, too, you might have some time to think about this ahead of time, and maybe you're comfortable enough with some of your relatives to call ahead and warn them that you're going to do a little interview, if they're the type who would be easily willing to submit to such a thing, and just kind of tell them what you want to talk about so they have a little time ahead of time to think about what they might say. And concerning what you said, David, about getting things recorded in a way that they aren't drowned out in all the noise of the crowd, try to find a room that is off from the main place and just pull people in there. There was a family reunion we had in 2019 with a group of people who descend from my great-grandparents down my mother's side. And we pulled the oldest guy in the place into a separate room away from everything. He was 92 years old, and talked to him for 20 minutes about what he remembered about his grandparents, who are great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents to many of the people who were there. So we got a lot of great information. There was no noise drowning him out. He was relaxed. And he had a little time to think about it, too, because I gave him a warning that I was going to visit with him when we got there. And the same thing applies for Christmas time or any other holiday for that matter.
That's very true. And the other thing that you want to have on hand, DNA kits, because those are the best boomerang gift you could ever give somebody.
Absolutely, especially for the older relatives. So that is it for this week and for this year. And thank you, David, so much for all your incredible contributions throughout 2022, and to all our listeners for joining us and supporting us all through the past year. And we'll be back here coming up in 2023. Hope you'll join us then, and hope you enjoy our classic rewinds over the next couple of weeks as well. Hey, I'm Fish. We'll talk to you soon. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.